Right. Welcome to Global Academy of Holistic Leadership and Coaching in collaboration with Prerona Television Canada. We're very happy that we're continuing our leadership speaker series. And we, as usual, we are having our session um, every Wednesday, which is Canada time. So today our topic is leadership and international perspective. We'll be discussing a couple of things like leadership, designing organization based on culture, strategic leadership imperative, and key dynamics in global organizations make up. So Advocate Gio Raman, as usual, is the CEO of IITM and is adjunct faculty of Independent University. Thank you very much, Advocate Gio Rahman, for being with us. You can continue with presentation. Thank you very much.
Good evening in Canada and good morning in Bangladesh and rest of the world. Today is our 56th session, and today's topic is leadership and international perspective. Normally, we build on the idea of leadership and other issues. Today, I have purposely brought in a concept called international perspective. And why did I bring in this new concept? Is because today's leader are no longer thinking in terms of only giving leadership in a position where he or she is only exposed to one or two community groups. Today's leaders are exposed to multidimensional, multicultural, multi-ethnic environment. So that person has to be thinking beyond his or her own community mindset. So we have to be truly transforming ourselves into people of value to society from a global perspective in order for us to lead. So today's session is going to build in two components, not only leadership, but it's going to be bringing in the ideas of how international perspectives are important and how we ought to be navigating our leadership traits in building on these knowledge base that we gather from the international community and international dimension. So moving forward, just give me a second. Okay. Normally I have some quotations. So this is by Lao Tzu. The key to growth is the introduction of higher dimensions of consciousness into our awareness. So what this means is when we plan to grow as a professional, as a human being, as a leadership, we have to be careful and we have to be focusing on our own understanding beyond the normal self. So we have to really focus into our consciousness of awareness. So when you are leading as a leader in an international dimension where you have people from different parts of the world, it's not just your own awareness that you have to be really worrying about. It is the awareness of the individuals who are collectively working together, and the individuals' mindset have actually come together from different and diverse communities. So we have to be aware and we have to be conscious of all these different levels of abstraction. So that's why the growth can be connected to this understanding of the moving forward to knowing where is your higher levels of consciousness. With that, we will actually lead into the future. And this is true for not only a spiritual leader, it is true for all forms of leadership. Wherever you want to go, in whichever direction you want to go, the consciousness level you have to be always be aware of. And with that consciousness level, are you connecting with the rest of the community? So these dimensions are vital for your success. Moving forward, in order to more fully understand this reality, we must take into account other dimensions of a broader reality, by John Archibald Wheeler. When we talk about this reality, the other dimension. We are not just looking at the leadership of yourself and the narrow community in which you grew up. We are looking at the other dimension from a broader perspective of who we are dealing with at a global level. Every organization has different sets of people, and you have to actually extricate yourself from your own self and sort of take a view of a macro perspective of who is saying what is being brewed in this environment, how are things happening in my environment, who are the movers and shakers, what characteristics and what particular traits do they have, are their traits similar to ours? Do we need to make them similar, or do we uh, move forward with having this diverse background and diverse construct and diverse mindset? These are the issues that you have to move towards into the higher dimension in order to facilitate the organizational growth from a broader perspective. So as a leader, the most important issue is to understand fully where you are situated, who are the people with whom you are engaging it, what is their cultural dynamics, what is their organizational dynamics, what are how are they differently abled, and what takes and what does not take in front of them. What type of mindset do you really need to bring forward to engage them in a effective, efficient, and productive manner? These are truly very important issues. Normally, these issues are learned through your life's experience handling with people. If you handle many people in your life from diverse background, you automatically gain a understanding of how to handle these people. What are the particular knobs that you have to push in order to get things done? So you will have to really look at these from that perspective of the individual self and the collective self within the environment in which you are trying to operate. If you are moving into an environment where you are the new person, although you might be the senior most person, maybe you have been hired as a leader in that particular division, or you have become the top person of that organization. First and foremost, what would be your role? The first and foremost role would be understanding the internal dynamics in which these people engage in. Who is responsible for what? From a hierarchical perspective, also from the perspective of opinion shapers and opinion leaders. People within the environment will have certain leverage, certain strengths. Some people might not have the official designation, but they will pull a lot of, they will have a lot of say in the way things operate in this environment. So as a professional, your first reality when you're joining in this particular position is to understand the broader reality of how the organization ticks and what is engaging and what is kosher in this environment and what really is not the right way to move about. It is not to say that you have to form your own mindset along with that mindset only. If you want to change a particular mindset, a particular understanding within the organization and the way people think in this organization, you have to slowly drive towards it. You cannot break the old system just by abruptly coming in and saying that from today all of the old problems or all of these old issues have been, we don't have to worry about it. Today, I'm going to start thinking from my own mindset and my own angle, and all of you need to start connecting with me. This may not work properly. Chances are this will fail miserably. So engaging with your people from a broader reality perspective would be so much more vital for the organization, for you to move within the organization. Moving forward, this is a long one, but it is an appropriate one as well. And in this one, sorry, the quotation says, "We do not grow absolutely chronologically." That means in terms of time, in terms of age. We grow sometimes in one dimension and not in another. unevenly, we grow partially, we are relative, we are mature in one realm, childish in another. The past, present, and future mingle and pull us backward, forward, or fix us into the present. We are made up of layers, cells, and constellations. This is by Anais Nin. This is a long quotation. It builds a lot of dimension into the way we think, the way we are, how we move about, how we resonate our activities in the greater body within the stakeholder community in which we operate. So, as a professional, as a leader in the house, as a leader in society, you have to realize that we are always moving forward, we are moving sideways, we are moving backwards. It is how we collect all these vital components within our characteristics, within our activities, and we blend it with today, with which is we blend it with present, and we make the future. And these abstractions, these levels are all in terms of layers, in terms of compartments, in terms of cells, and in terms of constellations. In other words, a set of activities that the author is talking about in terms of constellations. So we have to realize as a leader that we do not lead absolutely on a daily basis, and we do not grow chronologically on a daily basis. For example, a set of decisions that you took today, maybe 6 months later, you might feel that another set of activity and another set of decisions that you have taken is perhaps better. It could be better, it may not be better. Maybe the old set of decisions that you had taken, given the old context, was more proper. And now you're forced into a different set of different domain and different set of circumstances, and the decision that you're taking based on your current reality, you may not be making the proper decision. It is not because you have not a you are not grown in terms of your capacity. It's just because the current situation is differently energized, differently enabled, and therefore your thought process is differently enabled at this point. And maybe you are not going to come up with the best outcome today in today's environment. So this is the reality of the present and the future. You're always in the mix of a lot of turbulent issues, turbulent environment, and in those turbulent environment, your capacity to engage in the right output, getting to the right output, may not be always appropriate. So you have to play with different pieces of the puzzle. It's like you have to be a constant juggler of activities, constant juggler within the time frame in which you ought to do certain activity. So I, as a leader, or you as a leader, you have to keep this perspective in your mind that you are always changing. The game is always shifting. The perspectives are moving. So you cannot have a status quo, and you cannot have a status quo thinking that what I'm thinking now is appropriate because I've aged in terms of my activity doing this better over the last few months, and now I'm a master of what I'm doing. Having that type of confidence is sometimes good, but if you do have it in a sense that you are completely blind to the external output that are taking place, external environment that is shaping your perspective, then you are setting yourself for failure. You will be surprised because not all the components, all the variables around you are going to be the similar in a future state. And so looking at it from the angle of the old spectacle or the old looking glass may not result in the right outcome and the right output because of the environmental changes that is being taking place around you. So that's why the author is talking about moving forward, pulling yourself backward, and creating the present. And that's why Anais Nin is talking about us human being in a layered, celled constellation environment. And the reason it is important in today's perspective is because We are now in the midst of a lot of new people who we have never perhaps interacted before. Maybe I'm in an environment where all of a sudden I come across people from another country who have professional degrees and working with me. I have a particular mindset because of my family orientation, my association, my school life, my bringing, my the way I was brought up, etc. All of that are part of me and who I am. And maybe that person is coming from another country and his or her perspective is quite different. And the way they had been engaged in life and the activities of life have been different. Maybe I go with the documentation and attack a particular situation by discussing point to point of what needs to be done. Maybe those people do not go through those perspectives. Maybe they have an open discussion, open dialogue with their colleagues and team members and try to get a visual feel of what needs to be done rather than a documented feel. So my way and their way, if I say that your way is wrong and my way is the right way, and you press on the perspective that always follow this structure, this might have a negative consequence in that environment because those people may not be adapted to this perspective and they had always done it the other way and they have perhaps performed well in their social environment, in the previous job environment in which they were, and their bosses in those environment did not mind the way they had enable their thought process in order to get certain things done. But now you are in an environment where you are the boss and they are responding to you as your colleague, but junior colleague, and you are pushing them as to exact way in which you have trained your mind to act. That may not be the right approach. So these issues of understanding where we are and that we are in the game of moving forward and moving backwards at different times in life should be understood from a leader's point of view. So moving forward, normally we have a leadership definition which is based on topic, and today's topic is on leadership and the international dimension. So what is leadership from that angle? Leadership is about bringing home the perspective that others matter and others from across the world bring different analytical mindsets to solving problems. At the end of the day, leadership is nothing but solving problems, and how you solve it shows your leadership. If you solve it through your own capacity, fine, there's nothing wrong. But in order for things to be solved, if you take inordinate amount of time, then you are probably not a good leader because you're taking up too much time, and this issue was not that great of a problem that it took such a long time to solve. So why is it that? Because sometimes you feel that as a leader I have to solve all the problems myself and I have to use my own ecosystem and my own structural dynamics in solving the problem. I would suggest that that is a wrong philosophy and a wrong perspective. What you need to do is go out and blend with your people, engage with your stakeholders, get a feel for what is at stake and how others are thinking around this problem. Maybe your competitor, what have they done? Did they have this type of problem? Try to find out. Try to do a case-based discussion, a brainstorming session to find out the perspective of the situation from different angles, from different mindsets, coming from different communities and different ethnic background and geographical domains. So something that you are thinking from your local perspective may have a very different dimension and different perspective from a global perspective. So engage in those dynamics. So a leader is not just thinking of solving problems himself or herself. He or she has to be differently enabled and find different segments of the community to to which he or she can go and get the feedback and then collectively solve a situation that has been persistently hurting the organization. So I have to be always wearing the hat that I am not going to be solving all the problems myself. I will have people, I will have others to come in and build on the solution set. And that's how I can do things quicker. Remember, as a leader, you are playing with time as well. You're not just playing with solving problems. You have to engage the problems. You have to engage a time dimension in the problem solving exercise. And the faster you solve a problem, the better enabled you are in terms of efficiency and productivity. And obviously, the output within your organization will be faster. And that's the whole purpose of leading from the front. Moving forward, leadership and culture, we are now bringing in these two topics together, and we have done extensive discussions on these. So I'll just quickly go through each one. Try to bring in the common values between the people across different domains. If you can nurture with the common values, your leadership will be more solid and it will be strengthened, because people will come and glue towards you, glue around you based on some common value judgments and value systems. How will you do that? You have to accommodate different perspective and different diversity. This could be ethnic diversity, it could be cultural diversity, it could be a diversity of points of view. People are different from different angles, and no two people are thinking similar. But if you can accommodate these diverse mindsets, diverse perspective, diverse viewpoints, maybe you will get a holistic perspective that is blending in a very different viewpoint together and stringing these ideas together, and ultimately through this consensus building exercise amongst this diverse community, something appropriate, something effective and magical can come about. So blend the perspective of diversity within your enterprise. The next one is mapping global mindsets. This is in connection to the previous two. If you can map these diverse people from diverse mindsets and understand who they are, what they represent, and what enables them, and what is actually their perspective with regards to a certain set of situations, and if you can follow their mindsets, if you can try to get the best output from their mindsets, then you are differently engaging, and you are actually built a ecosystem which is global, having an international perspective, and that may actually develop a cohesive organization. And this will move to the next one, rapport building. If you're blending all the different dimensions and trying to raise awareness from different segments of the world community with whom you're working, it could be your employee base, it could be your community in terms of your stakeholder community, and it could be also your customer segments as well. If you can blend all these three compute communities from a global perspective, you're actually engaging in a far greater opportunity for your organization, and a lot more energy will actually come through this exercise, and a rapport and trust building will take place. And if once you have these rapport, like one family, this leadership and culture and the leadership and international dimension will all be very, very productive and efficient. Next is the engage in cross-cultural dialogues. Obviously, unless you go through a proper communication between people from diverse background, you will not know who they are and how they are differently enabled. And bringing their energies to the table in the decision-making process will be effective only through proper dialogue. If you are in a leadership position and if you have opened up a open floor discussion, and then if you jump in and say that I have started this discussion, but I know people from different parts of the world will think differently, and I know you have a different mindset, but listen to me or at this point because I know better. If you are moving with that type of mindset, then people will automatically shut down, because these are people who are responding to you and who are your colleagues, but they are junior to you. If you have this mindset of I know it better than you, and if you rub it onto them, then even if they have a great idea, they might be shrinking from sharing those ideas, in feeling that if my ideas are pushed down in a very negative way, then I'll lose my self-esteem, my 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 perspective, my own perspective as a leader within this organization will be affected. So I don't want to expose myself in a negative way. Maybe that's not a negative way, but given the circumstances, you are thinking that sharing a new idea might put you into a negative consequences. So that's very dangerous. So you don't want to be in a shoe where as a leader you are not engaging these cross-cultural dialogues. And the last point under this leadership and culture is you are paving way for win-win opportunities. And the only way you win-win is when you are truly engaging with these people, and the spirit of discourse, the spirit of dialogue, the spirit of exchanging views, and the spirit of knowing that others can say better, others may have a better fix to this problem. You have that mindset, then only a win-win situation will take place. So you have to be always in that construct, the mental construct, that you have to win together with other people. It's not I, but we kind of environment, and accommodating all the points that I just discussed, you create your leadership and your cultural perspective to build the next enterprise, the thriving enterprise. Moving forward, leaders' strategic perspective. What perspective you hold true in order to actually guide your organization forward? Number one, most important, you have to find value from the cross-cultural associates. Finding value. Every day is a day to gain some additional perspective, whether it's a product, whether it's a service, or whether it's a research issue. You have to find a new avenue that will create more value for the enterprise. So how you do that? You engage in cross-cultural association. Brainstorming is another component we discussed, with an open mind. If your mind is closed, brainstorming will not work, because you listen to people and then you come to your own old self and you drive your own perspectives within the framework of the organization. It may not build the right rapport, it may not build the right set of circumstances to create an open platform, an open organization with an open mind. So you have to be constantly challenging yourself, saying to yourself that I may be wrong, let me hear other people out and let me learn from them. Avoid assumptions and have an Ubuntu spirit. Ubuntu meaning open. It's like a free market mindset. You keep your mind open to ideas, you keep your mind open to new domains of knowledge, etc. Don't be fixated to a set of assumptions that you only hold true, and you only hold absolutely, like for example you think that these are the canonical truths, and I don't want to move beyond that. Sometimes you have to do that in terms of assumptions of integrity, assumptions of truth, assumptions of being proper within your environment. Those are integral human spirits to which you must hold yourself true to. But there are many assumptions which you can sway based on the environment and the dynamics in which you are operating. So you have to be constantly in a flux in understanding the context in which you are moving your enterprise forward. So you have to realize the ebb and flow of the dynamics of the people's activity, and the people's mindset are at constant play, and you have to navigate and move forward upstream through these complex perspectives and behavioral traits. So having an Ubuntu and open spirit would always be helpful for you to capitalize on the opportunities that comes in your way. The next one is valuing opinion from different communities and cluster. This is in connection with the Ubuntu spirit. If you are not open, then you will not value other people's point of view. If you have that mindset that I know it better, I have the ego of my own, And if you're egotistical, no matter how intelligent you are, you will be rubbing your intelligence and your ego on the other person. And when you do that, then obviously the other person will not feel accommodated. It's about accommodation into the decision making process. The people might come from lower end of the operational activity point, in the sense that they're junior officers in your organization, but even juniors can have remarkably great ideas. So you have to build the enterprise where you allow these type of discussions to flow, and you actually create a web of confidence amongst the people, and the behavioral domain within the enterprise have to be created in such a way that you foster those types of issue. It does not mean that you are going to be endlessly discussing on a particular issue and not arrive at any particular concrete output. We are not saying that. But what we are saying is that when you bring in a multi-dimensional attribute, multi-dimensional thought process in the design of your decision, it can blend, and it can blend in new perspective, and it can be more stronger in the way you ought to be implementing the decision that you have taken, the plan of action that you're going to roll out. It might be more better in the sense it has more dynamics and more particular components you have addressed, and the plan of action has been made more effective based on the 360-degree assessment. So this is vital. The next point is the mindset. We come back to this mindset issue all the time, because at the end of the day, everything is governed, all activities, all engagements are governed by a positive and engaging mindset. So again, assumptions and being fixated to a particular situation can kill the opportunity. So you don't want to be in those type of situations. So when we are looking at leaderships, and we're looking at the strategy of designing leadership, we must be always cognizant of all the issues that we have just discussed about. And if you are in a right frame of mind and open to all these new ideas and building your fabric within the organization, ultimately you will have a better enterprise. And academic research has shown that a professional environment where you value judgment, value opinion, value other people's mindset, and you are always engaging and you have a productive brainstorming session, those organizations perform better in terms of lower job turnover. They perform better in terms of better brand value, better output in terms of their products and services, and the bottom line, they are more profitable enterprises. So why should we not follow these perspectives? So take this challenge today. Uh, since you're watching me speaking on these particular perspective, use some of these perspectives in your work environment right from today, and see how meaningfully you are changing and transforming your organization. If you see that things are moving in the right direction, then you know that the input that you received from today's session was vital, and then you should follow through these ideas in your particular activities in your work environment on a regular basis. And if you practice this on a regular basis within your environment, others will also realize that you are following particular leadership traits and the strategic perspectives of being a proper leader. They will try to follow you, they will learn from your environment, and they will apply. And that's how you shape a good enterprise forward. Moving forward, the key dynamics of a global organizational makeup. Number one, every major organization has different people from different background and different ethnicity and religious background and color. So we are heterogeneous. We're not homogeneous. There might be some benefit of having a homogeneous team, but the benefit is greater in the sense that if you have a heterogeneous team from different communities and different countries and different mindset, you get a different flavor of what is supposed to be a leadership trait, and how leadership is considered differently in different geographical domains. So if you have people from 50 different countries, obviously running a organization in 50 different countries would be a little bit easier because of the mindset that comes with the 50 people or more than 50 people with whom you engage on a daily basis who come from those countries. So having a heterogeneous mindset, having a heterogeneous community might be very good for creating the organization and building the rich fabric of leadership. The next point is having these different people gives a different mindset altogether. Different mindset, different outcomes will come about, and different mindsets will actually be uh, helping us to formulate a larger plan more effectively. We have to also realize that the organizational and international makeup will have values and beliefs which would be different. My values judgment and my value system and beliefs might be slightly different or somewhat different from yours. It is not to say that what is appropriate and true in all cultures, I will not hold that true, and I will not hold that and in terms of its status as something which is very strong and embedded in terms of the fairness principle, in terms of the principles of truth, etc. There are absolute truths in all different communities. For example, being honest to your profession, being truthful in your communication, being truthful as to what you speak of, and where, and it is of value and belief system that works across all the communes, that truthfulness and justice and fairness principle is there across all value systems and all belief systems. But when we talk about other issues, smaller issues of values, for example, certain beliefs and values regarding work activity. If somebody has been operating in a different environment, of course, vis-a-vis your environment, the value system would be slightly different. And I would give you an example. For example, there are people who would not venture out from their homes without having a spiritual discussion within the family uh, on that particular day, and then leave the house. They want to keep this structure within their system all through their lives, whereas somebody else might not even bother of the spiritual or religious connotation, and they go out and do their work on a daily basis. You might judge them from your own narrow perspective, but in a professional environment, if both people are delivering the right set of output, then you cannot berate someone that you're less spiritual versus somebody else, or you're less religious from somebody else. You cannot do that, because these value systems might be appropriate, differently enabled in certain environment, whereas maybe you go to another environment where those value systems are very appropriate, and you are all constantly talking about spirituality and religious perspectives within your environment, and you're pushing people to follow a particular domain and particular mindset. So these value systems in one environment might be a little different than the value system in another environment. And there are organizations where religious tones and spiritual tones are highly embedded into the work practices that they do, and they are trained in that dimension and trained in that perspective, whereas in another environment, in a organization which is 10,000 miles away, they are differently enabled. So you you cannot judge each from its own merit, or you cannot judge them from your own particular angle. So what I'm trying to make up is that organizational makeup from a different mindset and different global structure will always be there, and you have to facilitate your growth and you have to differently push the people within those cultures and subcultures that are prevalent within the enterprise. The next point is different focus. Again, your focus and my focus might be slightly different. For that, I cannot feel miserable on you. I might be your superior boss, or I might be your junior, and I might not feel the way you do things is the right way. That is my perspective. You have a particular way of doing things. I may have a slightly different way of doing things. I should not be judgmental on a daily basis is from the point of view that my way is the right way and your way is the inefficient way. Maybe there could be slight inefficiency. You have to only box those issues from those angles and try to discuss some issues with the other person with whom you're working with. If you really truly feel that there needs to be certain changes in the way that person operates, then due to your different focus, you can open a discussion. Otherwise, if things are operating efficiently, but from a different angle, you should not judge them based on your singular focus. You have to be having an Ubuntu mindset and allow the different focus so that you create a global organizational makeup with where you're facilitating different systems, different mindsets to actually seep in and create and build the new enterprise. The last point that we have to realize that management styles differ and everybody is different and differently enabled. We talked about management previously, so I would just touch on this point that I I may have a different way of communicating. You might have a slightly different way of communicating. I may follow through my activities in a slightly different way. Maybe my way of rounding up the output is by bringing people in for a meeting and then discussing certain issues and telling people that uh, due to your activities, this output has taken place and thank you very much. And this is a team effort and thank you. And let's move to the next set of activities. That could be a one style. Maybe somebody else might go to each table. Maybe there are 7 people in that team and you go to the 7 people, you pat on their shoulders and tell them that, look, you are great. Remember the work that we had been doing on that particular project. It has come about and thank you very much for your wonderful effort. So that could be a slightly different way of sharing the good news and bringing the confidence level up and bringing that person up to speed as to what had happened on that particular project so that person feels excited and happy that their contribution, his or her contribution, had made some meaningful changes within the enterprise, and my senior boss or my leadership is happy with the outcome. So every manager might be engaging in a slightly different way. This was just the way of communicating a particular success. There could be many other ways of bringing different mindsets and different management styles into your work practice. And that's how you can create a different global environment. So every single issue is important in order for you to create the organization from a global perspective. So the point that I would like to drive home today is that we are in a uniquely different environment from what we used to have 30, 40 years back. Right now you're dealing with foreign buyers, you're dealing with foreign customers, you're dealing with foreign suppliers, you're dealing with foreign employees, and you're dealing with not only foreign employees from different religious background, you're dealing with people with completely different mindsets as well. So to be a true leader in today's business space or eco business ecology, you have to blend all the inputs, you have to nurture all the outputs, and you have to nurture all the values and belief systems in one comprehensive basket from a holistic perspective and then move forward. You should not be very presumptive. You should not be having a lot of assumptions with regards to a particular way of doing things. You have to have an open sort of mindset and have an engaging discussion. And then truly you will have the organizational perspective to build leadership from an international perspective. So moving forward, I am at the end of my session, and the million-dollar question that I have today is, given the complex global business environment, do we focus on working through an employee base of similar mindset, orientation, ethnicity, etc., or forge together a multicultural, differently abled workforce? It depends on the enterprise. If you are running a very small enterprise, you might have a very structured environment where you have people only from your own community, maybe a very few people who are absolutely almost similar to your mindset working in your enterprise. You can run your operation. It may work. But when you are dealing with products which are going from different parts of your country to other parts of the world, and you are engaging in a lot of research activity or consumer research, where you have to deal with a lot of people from different multicultural environment and mindset and ethnic background, then I would definitely have this perspective of bringing my enterprise up to the speed by having people from those communities. Because if I'm sitting in Dhaka and I'm working on a product which will be ultimately sold in Nigeria or Kenya, or for that matter somewhere else in New Zealand, if I have people from those community perspective, my product might be slightly better positioned. It might get a slightly different perspective. It might be true, but it not might be true most of the time. It may not be true all the time. Given that perspective that I just suggested, still I would suggest that bringing people from different mindset, different ethnicity, different community spirit, and different type of orientation, cultural orientation and subcultural orientation might blend a new dimension, might blend a new horizon to your work environment, your thought process, and the way you design your products and services. Uh, it might be very helpful. If you have a research team from different angle, of very sharp people from different communities, the synergy effect may kick in, and you may have something remarkable, an opportunity that may come out of the research that you are doing from your organizational perspective. For example, if you are developing a city, for example, and you're doing a landscape architecture, or you're developing a highly exciting building ecosystem, and if you have people from different ethnic background and different university background, coming from different countries in your architectural practice or your landscape design practice, you will see that people are using different attributes, different components, different design sense, different perspective, and following different architectural patterns in the design of the entire ecosystem. Your job as a leader is to blend these different ideas and different practices and different ways of designing things together, and to create something meaningful, magical, and innovative. That would be your job as the leader. So I would I would be swayed with that perspective, that if I'm designing a organization which is growing very quickly, I would try to bring in people from different ethnic background, different mindset, if different country perspective, etc. And if you look at, for example, if you're creating a university, and if you are bringing in people from different background and different ethnic perspective and different countries, you will see a rich divergence of culture coming in to your university, and your engagement and your dynamics will all automatically change, and the students will learn different mindsets and different perspective just by being in that university. The ethnic traditions, the different cultural fests within the university will be a lot different from where you were previously, where you had only a community from one uh, narrow dimension. So I just gave you this example, and this is proper, and which is appropriate in a environment where there is a huge number of products spread across multi-territory, multi-country environment. I would be completely sold on the idea of having a heterogeneous work environment and engaging people from different countries and different multicultural environment. I would be constantly building my enterprise from those angles. There are challenges in integrating them, but if you are creating a environment of trust and rapport building and effective communication, then this multidimensional component and attribute may bring in wonders for you. So with that, I would like to end today's session, and I want to go back to Edward Probir Mondal. And thank you very much for listening in. I am Advocate Ziorman. I'm from Bangladesh, and I'm an adjunct faculty with Independent University Bangladesh. Thank you very much. Back to you, Edward Probir Mondal.
All right, thank you very much, Advocate Gio Roman, for your presentations. It is very a lot of informations over there, and thank you very much for sharing with us. So we're very happy that we have concluded our 56th episode of Leadership Speaker Series. So today we have leadership and international perspective, designing organization based on culture, strategic leadership imperatives, and key dynamics in global makeup. So with that, we concluded our session. We also welcome you to attend our next session, which will be held in next week, Wednesday, same time. And Mountain Standard Time, it is 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, it is 11 p.m. And Bangladesh Standard Time, it is Thursday morning at 9 a.m. And Indian Standard Time is Thursday morning at 8:30 a.m. With that, thank you very much and stay safe and stay blessed.